At 75 years old, Chris Norman finally opens up and really talks about Suzi Quatro in a big way. You know Chris Norman? His full name when he was born was Christopher Ward Norman. That happened on October 25, 1950, in a place called Redcar, which is in North Yorkshire, England. Picture a little baby being born into a house where music was already everywhere, like it was as normal as breathing. His dad wasn't just someone who liked singing. No, his dad was a real professional singer and entertainer. That means he actually got paid to go out and perform songs and make people happy on stage. So from the very first days of little Chris's life, music wasn't something special that only happened sometimes. It was just part of every single day, like how some families always have the TV on, or how some houses always smell like fresh bread. Music filled their home constantly. Then one day the whole family picked up and moved to a different city called Bradford. Young Chris was still a kid, and Bradford back then was buzzing with energy. This was right after the big war, so people in Britain were excited to feel alive again. New kinds of music were popping up everywhere. Rock and roll that made your feet want to dance, skiffle that sounded fun and scrappy with homemade instruments, and the very first pop songs that teenagers loved because they felt like those songs were talking right to them. All of that music was changing how young people dressed, how they talked, how they dreamed about the future. Chris soaked it all up like a sponge. He listened, he watched, he felt the excitement in the air. When he became a teenager, those years when you start figuring out who you want to be, Chris picked up a guitar. It felt right in his hands. He didn't just learn a few chords and stop. He really practiced, and he started playing music with his school friends. They would get together after school, in someone's bedroom or garage, and try to sound good together. While he was getting better at playing the guitar strings, something even more special was happening. Chris was finding his own singing voice. Not just any voice, his voice had this special husky sound, like he'd lived a little already even though he was young. It was full of real emotion. You could hear feelings in every note: sadness, happiness, love, everything. It sounded so human, so real. Back then, lots of singers tried to sound super perfect or very dramatic, like they were acting in a big theater show. But Chris? His voice felt like your best friend talking to you when something important was happening. Even in those early teenage years, people already noticed. "That guy sings different," they would say. Then in the middle of the 1960s, think mini skirts, long hair, big changes everywhere, Chris and three of his friends said, "Let's make this official." The friends were Alan Silson, Terry Utley, and Ron Kelly. They started a band. Later on, Ron left and Pete Spencer came in instead. But the dream stayed the same. For years, they tried different band names. They played small clubs, school dances, anywhere people would listen. Sometimes barely anyone showed up. Sometimes they got booed. It was tough. They were working hard, practicing, driving long hours in old vans, hoping someone important would notice them. It felt like they were shouting into the wind. But then, finally, everything changed. They picked a new name: Smokey. Sometimes people wrote it Smokey, but it's Smokey. That name felt right. And right around the mid-1970s, luck finally smiled on them in a huge way. They met two very smart and successful men named Nicky Chinn and Mike Chapman. These guys were famous for writing catchy songs and knowing exactly how to make records sound amazing. They became Smokey's songwriters and producers. With Chris Norman's voice right out front leading every song, magic happened. Smokey started releasing one hit after another. These weren't just songs that played on the radio once or twice. These songs became part of people's lives all over the world. Imagine walking down the street in 1976 or 1977 and hearing everyone singing the same words. That's what happened. There was "Living Next Door to Alice." That one made people laugh and feel a little sad at the same time. "If You Think You Know How to Love Me" felt so honest, like someone confessing their real feelings. "Don't Play Your Rock and Roll to Me" had this cool attitude. "I'll Meet You at Midnight" sounded romantic and mysterious. And "Lay Back in the Arms of Someone" made you want to hug the person next to you. Those songs captured exactly how people felt in that time: young, hopeful, a little wild, full of dreams. Chris's voice was the secret ingredient. When he sang, you heard both soft vulnerability, like he was sharing a secret, and strong power at the same time. That mix made every song feel deep. You didn't just hear music, you felt it in your chest. The songs felt like they were about your own life, even if you'd never met the band. Because of those hits, Smokey became massive, especially in continental Europe, places like Germany, France, Holland. They were huge in Australia too, and of course right at home in the UK. Millions and millions of people became fans. They sold tens of millions of records. Tens of millions. Think about that. Every time someone bought one album, it was like saying, I love what you're doing. Multiply that by tens of millions. That's how loved they were. During all those exciting years, Chris wasn't just standing there singing. He became the frontman everyone watched. He had this natural charisma, warm, real, never fake. When he smiled at the crowd or talked between songs, you believed him. He felt like someone you could trust, someone who meant every word. Fans felt close to him even though they were far away in the audience. But even when things are going great, too much of a good thing can start feeling heavy. By the early 1980s, Smokey had been touring non-stop. City after city, country after country, hotel after hotel. They recorded album after album. The music bosses kept pushing. More hits, more tours, faster. After so many years of that pressure, the guys started feeling trapped, like they couldn't try new things, like the music wasn't theirs anymore. Chris felt it the most. He loved Smokey, but he wanted to make songs that came straight from his heart, songs that told his own story. He wanted artistic freedom. So in 1986, he made one of the hardest decisions of his life. He told the band, I have to leave. I want to try being a solo singer. Leaving a successful group is scary. What if nobody likes your new music? What if you disappear? Lots of people told him it was a mistake. But Chris felt he had to do it. And you know what? It turned out to be one of the best choices he ever made. Almost right away, lightning struck again. In 1986, he recorded a duet, a song sung together, with the amazing Suzi Quatro. The song was called Stumbling In. Oh my goodness, that song exploded. It went to #1 on so many charts. People who had never heard of Chris before suddenly knew his name. Younger listeners who weren't around for Smokey's big days fell in love with his voice. In Stumbling In, he showed a softer, more gentle side. His voice sounded tender, full of little emotional colors, like whispering sweet things to someone you care about. It was beautiful. After that huge success, Chris kept going. He released solo album after solo album. Each one showed everyone he wasn't just the guy from Smokey. He was a real, mature artist who sang with deep feelings. Songs like Midnight Lady made people feel dreamy and romantic. Some Hearts Are Diamonds felt wise and hopeful. No Arms Can Ever Hold You was full of longing. Those songs especially touched people in Germany, in Scandinavia, Sweden, Norway, Denmark, and in Eastern Europe. In those countries, Chris became almost like a hero. Fans treated him like family. Most singers who leave a famous band struggle. They miss the old fans, they can't get radio play, they fade away. But not Chris. He did the opposite. He got even stronger because he stayed true to himself. He never tried to copy what was popular that week. He made the music he loved, pop mixed with soft rock and just a touch of country feeling. His lyrics talked about real things, falling in love, missing someone after they're gone, looking back on life and smiling, finding strength when everything feels hard. As he got older, his songwriting became more personal, more thoughtful. When he sang live, you could see he really meant it. Every line came from his own heart and from growing wiser with age. And here's what makes Chris extra special. He never stopped. Most stars shine bright for a few years, then disappear. Chris, he's still going strong decades later. At 75, he's still touring all over Europe and beyond. He releases brand new albums. He plays concerts where every seat is sold out. People still come because they love him. When he steps on stage, you feel that same raw emotion from the 1970s. His voice isn't perfect and polished anymore. It's weathered, it's lived in, but that makes it even more beautiful. It's full of character. It feels honest. He doesn't just sing old Smokey songs to make money on nostalgia. Sure, he plays them and fans cheer like crazy because those memories are precious. But he also plays his new songs. He keeps creating. That balance, honoring the past while still moving forward, is really rare. Very few artists manage it. In 1994, something really big happened that proved how loved he still was. He won the CMT Europe International Video Star of the Year award. Back then, music videos on TV were huge. If your video was on heavy rotation, the whole world saw you. Winning that award meant his voice, strong, warm, instantly recognizable, was still connecting with millions. But it wasn't just the voice. It was the way he looked on camera, the emotion in his eyes, the way he made you feel something even through a screen. And he was doing it far beyond the UK, in countries all over the world. That award showed his solo career had grown up and stood tall on its own. It proved his music had timeless power and could touch hearts across different languages and cultures. 10 years later, in 2004, he made everyone smile again. He appeared on a popular German TV show on ProSieben. The show was all about bringing back legendary artists for special comeback moments. It was perfect for Chris. He reminded the whole country why his music never really went away. One part everyone talked about for weeks was when he sang "Stumbling In" again, this time as a duet with another big pop star, Suzi Quatro. The performance felt so good, old memories mixed with fresh energy. Longtime fans got tears in their eyes remembering the first time they heard it. New fans who were kids back then suddenly understood why their parents loved him. The most emotional moment came right at the end of the series. In the final episode, Chris walked on stage, and Smokey was there waiting for him. They sang one last song together. It didn't feel like a TV performance at all. It felt like a family reunion. Like old friends saying, "We made something beautiful together and we're still proud of it." The love in that room was real. You could feel it through the screen. Then fast forward to 2019. Chris got another huge honor. He was chosen as the headliner, the biggest star, at the White Nights Music Festival in St. Petersburg, Russia. That festival wasn't ordinary. It was a giant celebration of Alla Pugacheva's 50-year career. Alla Pugacheva is one of the most loved singers in Russian history, almost like a national treasure. Being picked to be the main act for her big anniversary tribute showed how much respect Chris has earned across Europe and even farther. It said, "This man is a true legend." He shared the stage with other great names, Level 42, Bonnie Tyler, Svetlana Loboda. Under those famous white nights, when the sky stays light almost all night in summer, Chris performed with all the experience of his long career, plus the same fire he had when he was young. He proved something important. Real musical greatness isn't about following whatever is trendy this month. It's about moving people, making them laugh, cry, remember, dream, year after year, from when they're teenagers to when they have gray hair, from one generation to their kids and grandkids. Now let's talk about something different, his real life away from stages and spotlights. Chris Norman's personal life has always been quiet, steady, and full of love. While fame can be crazy and full of drama, his home life has been the opposite. It's built on loyalty, commitment, and putting family first. In 1970, when Smokey was just starting to get a little attention, Chris married a woman named Linda. They said "I do" before the big fame arrived, before the sold-out stadiums, before the #1 records, before the constant traveling and pressure. That timing made their marriage special. It started when they were young, when they were just regular people who loved each other. It was built on real trust, real friendship, real understanding, not on cameras or money or being famous. That strong beginning made everything else easier later. Over more than 50 years, while so many music stars had marriages that broke apart, Chris and Linda stayed together. Linda has always been there for him, quietly in the background. She gives him love and calm when the music world gets too loud. She helped him stay balanced while he recorded, toured, and tried to stay relevant as styles changed. People who know them well say their relationship is very private. They don't show off. They don't need attention. It's built on deep respect. Both of them worked hard to keep their family life safe from reporters and gossip. Together they raised 5 children. Chris always said being a dad was the most important job he had, more important than any hit song or sold-out show. Even when he was away on long tours or locked in studios for weeks, he tried his best to stay close to his kids. Phone calls, letters, coming home whenever he could. He made sure they knew he loved them. Being a father gave him perspective. When work felt stressful, he could think, "My kids need me to be okay," and that helped him stay grounded. Lots of people who meet him or watch interviews say the same thing. He seems so normal, so kind, so easy to talk to, even when he was at the peak of fame. They believe a big part of that comes from having such a strong, loving family keeping him real. Then in 1986, the same year he left Smokey and had the big hit with Suzi, the whole family made another big choice. They moved to the Isle of Man. It's a small island between England and Ireland. They didn't move just for fun. They wanted a quieter, more peaceful place. The Isle of Man gave them privacy. It gave them calm. It was far enough from the big celebrity world that they could live normally. Chris could still make music. He could write songs, record, travel for concerts. But when he came home, he could just be dad, just be husband, just be a regular guy. The island has a small, friendly community. Life moves slower there. No paparazzi hiding in bushes. His children could grow up playing outside, going to school, having normal friends without newspapers writing about them. That move was like saying, "Music is my job, but family is my life." Since 1986, the Isle of Man has stayed their home. It's his safe place, his creative spot. From that peaceful island, he still writes new songs, records new albums, tours the world. It proves you don't have to live in London or Los Angeles or New York to be successful. You can live somewhere quiet and still touch millions of hearts. The island became his place to rest, to think, to remember what really matters. Commitment to the people you love, family above everything, and staying true to who you are. Now Chris is 75. That's a lot of birthdays. He's the man with the unforgettable voice who helped make Smokey famous, and he's one of the longest-lasting rock stars Britain ever gave the world. At this age, you naturally start looking back. He's had #1 hits that made people dance. He's toured until he was exhausted. He's had huge wins and some hard days too. All those years give him a very clear, wise view of the music business and everyone who was part of it. Among all those memories, one person stands out with extra brightness and respect: Suzi Quatro. For the first time in many, many years, Chris has decided to talk openly and in detail about her, about how their paths crossed, about the exciting time they shared, about how much he has always admired her. He looks back to the early 1970s. The music world felt wild and new. Everything was possible. Bands were trying crazy things. Nobody knew what would become huge and what would disappear. Those were electric times, he says. You could feel the energy everywhere. Then Suzi Quatro arrived, and boom, she changed everything. When Suzi came along, she changed the picture, Chris remembers. She didn't try to copy anyone. She didn't try to fit into the boxes that already existed. She was completely herself, 100% original. Her impact was so much bigger than just having popular songs. Think about it. Here was a woman playing bass guitar, usually the guys did that, leading a tough, loud rock band, singing with power and attitude. In the 1970s, the rock world was mostly men. Women were usually singers in soft dresses or backup dancers. Suzi broke every unwritten rule. People today sometimes forget how brave that was, Chris says. Back then, it just wasn't done. Girls weren't supposed to do that. But Suzi didn't ask anyone's permission. She just went out and did it. Even the guys, including Chris, had to stop and rethink. You couldn't dismiss her, he says. She had the attitude. She had the real talent. She had the energy and strength to keep going no matter what. They saw each other a lot, on tour buses, on TV shows, at music industry parties. Chris remembers those moments with a smile. She was always straight with people, he says. No pretending, no games. What you saw was exactly what you got. Honest to the core. And she had this perfect mix. Tough as nails, but also funny. She could stand up in any room full of big egos and hold her own. But she could also laugh at herself. That combination made her special. It made people like her and respect her at the same time. Behind the scenes, it wasn't always easy for her. Chris knows that. She had to work twice as hard as the men just to be taken seriously. That's the honest truth of those days. While some artists let the record company dress them up and tell them what to say, Suzi fought to stay herself. She knew exactly who she was. Nobody was going to rewrite her story. Someone asked him, "Why talk about this now at 75?" He paused for a moment. Then he said something beautiful. "Age gives you honesty. You stop worrying about how people will react. You just want the story to be fair." For him, being fair means giving Suzi the credit she deserves. Suzi deserves her place in history, he says firmly. Not as a cute novelty act, not as the female version of this or that, but as a real rock artist, full stop. He also says time has healed old tensions. Back then, everyone was fighting to survive, to get noticed, to have a hit. That made people compete, sometimes stay quiet, sometimes keep distance. But looking back now, only respect remains. When I look back, I feel grateful to have shared that era with people like Suzi, he says. She raised the bar for everyone. In his final thoughts, he speaks not just as a singer, but as someone who watched music history being made. If younger artists ask me about that time, he says, I always mention her. I tell them, look at Suzi Quatro. Look at her courage. At 75, Chris Norman's words carry the weight of a long, full life. They're clear, kind, and full of truth. They're a heartfelt thank you to a fellow pioneer who helped change rock music forever, how it looked, how it sounded, and who was allowed to make it. And that's the story, my friend. What an incredible journey, right?